I watched something that listed all of the things that you've done physically when it comes to operations and things you've had put in and taken out and all that stuff. Talk me through a couple of the things that you've had to go through. Let's go through that list.
Well, I've had 15 pacemakers. So I've had
15.
Yeah.
Put in and take out.
Yeah. So I've had pacemakers that have lasted 7 years, 7 days, and 7 hours. I've had single chamber pacemakers. I've had dual chamber pacemakers. I've had pacemakers in the chest here, pacemakers in the chest here, pacemakers in my abdomen. The very first pacemaker I had was the size of a car battery that I had to carry around with me for a while.
Wow.
I've had what's called cardioversion. That's where your heart gets out of rhythm and they have to take the paddles and they stick the paddles on you and they jolt you back into rhythm. So they basically stop and start your heart.
Yeah.
So they stick you on the operating board and they give you a little fun juice so you can calm down. And they pull the paddles out and they stick them on your chest and
Just reset the rhythm of it.
and you're so I've had that 3 times. I've had, like I said, 150, 200, biopsies. I've had kidney surgery. I had a kidney replaced, of course. I've had 2 transplants. I've had, I don't know. It just goes on and on and on.
You're the bloody Terminator, mate. I tell you what, mate. Guys, welcome to another episode of Jibber with Jabber. Today I have a very, 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 very inspirational story for you and an inspirational man who looks younger than me. Simon Keith. Simon, welcome.
Doing?
I'm just going to tell people a little bit about you.
Yeah, go for
You're
it.
the first athlete to ever compete professionally after a heart transplant.
That's right.
Which, did you get the Guinness World Records for that or not yet?
You don't, there's nobody to compete against.
Well, even now?
There's only 2.
Yeah, but you're the first.
I'm the first. The second,
so you should get the record.
The second guy's a golfer, but no, you don't.
Somebody sent me his profile yesterday.
If you're not the first, you don't get it. You don't get the Guinness Book of World Records for being the first. It's either the fastest or the longest or the highest or the
oldest.
Screw you, man.
I'm just saying.
I'm not on that list yet.
No, but I mean, is the golfer older than you?
He's younger than me. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
so you could get the oldest.
Professional.
I mean, I don't think you want to put that up there. You never want a certificate up in your wall that calls you the oldest at anything, right?
Yeah.
Right. Let's go right back to your story because I was fascinated and I am fascinated with these kind of stories. And I was really surprised that I didn't know your story before, which is one of the main reasons that I really want to do this episode because so many people need to know your story. Let's talk about it before. So you were living in Canada.
I was living in Canada. So born in England, raised in Canada, and I was the third boy of 3 in a very athletic household. My dad was a footballer by choice. He loved the game. He was good at the game. Had trials with Chelsea and turned them down. Funny enough, he was a school teacher. Raised us in Canada, and he rose to the level of the World Cup assistant Canadian national team coach.
Oh.
So the real deal in my house. My oldest brother was part of the Canadian Olympic soccer team, and my middle brother, his name's Adam, was an absolute phenom when he was a kid, and maybe at 14 years old was the best player in all of Canada, men included. He was that much of a phenom. So I was the 4th best soccer player in my house growing up. Left high school, signed for Millwall in the English League.
England,
signed professional contract, playing in England. Things were great.
So you were playing in Millwall?
I was playing in Millwall.
Dodgiest team in England, mate. I'll tell you what, their fans are no joke, dude.
Well, they invented the word hooligan to describe their fans,
Do you know that, I mean, I'm sure you do, these guys used to plan to fight like these matches where the Chelsea fans and the Millwall fans and all that, and they'd be like, right, after the game,
that's right,
we're going to meet over there, kick the shit out of each other.
That's right.
And then I'll see you when we come to Chelsea.
That's right. West Ham mostly.
What West Ham? Yeah, West Ham and Millwall was a big
because they were neighbors.
big
Yeah,
derby.
exactly right.
Crazy. Okay, so you were a hooligan.
I mean, I played in crazy games at Millwall, like crazy.
How old were you when you were a hooligan?
I was 18 and 19.
Okay, good age.
Yeah. It was crazy, right? I grew up in a very conservative small town in Canada. Find myself in the East End of London. Terrible, very tough place. But started my career with Teddy Sheringham, of course.
Wow.
So Teddy had a great career, much better than mine. And so I'm playing, and I get a phone call. I get a phone call from a guy named Tony Waiters, who was the Canadian men's national World Cup team coach at the time. And he said, "Listen, I want you to come and be on the squad where we're gonna they call it carded athlete. We're gonna pay for you to come back to Canada. We're gonna pay you as a pro, send you to the National Training Center. You'll live and eat and train with all the other squad players." And that's what dragged me back to Canada. So I was preparing for the World Cup in 1984 and 85. Got sick. Instead of making my World Cup debut in 1986 in Mexico, I found myself back in England on a operating table having my heart taken out of my chest.
Okay, wait. Let's go back.
I know, fast forwarded. But
yeah. So when you say you got sick, what was it that put you in that situation?
So playing in Western Canada, and it's not terribly cold. It's not igloos and ice like people think, but it's still pretty chilly. And I was having a practice. And I remember distinctly just, what I'd learned to play when I was in England. I learned the difference between sort of amateur sports and professional sports. In professional sports, you got to have the ability to step on someone's neck, right? You know that. A lot of athletes know that. And when I found myself in Canada, I found myself not feeling the same way. Like, I just wanted to get through practice instead of absolutely crushing people. And then one day I looked down at my hands, and they were white, like opaque white. And I was like, fuck, something's wrong. And so that started sort of a year of in doctors, out of doctors, trying to figure out what it was. And eventually they figured out that I had a heart problem. And the way they do that, once they got to that point, the way they do that is they do a heart biopsy. And a heart biopsy is they put a little slice in your neck, and they take a long plastic tube and they shove it down that vein so it goes all the way into the inside of the heart. They take a long metal wire with this little clippers on the end. They jam that through that plastic sheath that they've put in. They get it inside the heart, and then the clipper that
just pulls a bit of.
Yeah, I think the medical term is yank.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're awake watching this happen.
Wow.
So that's always fun. I've had
It's on the screen.
I've had 150 of these things now.
Wow.
Maybe more. And so they yank it and they pull it out. They look at it on a microscope. So that's how they figure out that I had what's called a cardiomyopathy. It was virus based, and just luck of the draw. It's just shitty luck of the draw.
And did they tell you, hey, listen, you need to go have a heart transplant, or how did it work? Like in that moment where you were like, okay, there's something wrong. This is what you need to do.
So my year of 1985 was, it was literally this. It was in the hospital on a Monday, struggling on a Tuesday, out of hospital, back with the national team on a Wednesday, playing at a high level on Thursday, struggle through Friday, have a game on Saturday, find myself back in the hospital on Sunday, Monday. So I did this for like a year, like fighting this fight, right? And until March 3rd, I know the date, March 3rd, 1986, and I'm sitting in Vancouver General Hospital. I've had another biopsy, and the doctor comes up to me and says, listen, Simon, we've tried everything we can. We know what the problem is, and you need a heart transplant. You need it now, or you'll be dead in 6 months.
Wow.
25, I'm 19 or 20 years old, professional athlete. You're dealt with this news. 3 months from going to the World Cup. 3 months from going to the World Cup. March,
Crazy.
April, May, June, World Cup.
Yeah.
What do you do, right?
How does an 18-year-old receive that information?
In the movies they talk about sort of this out of body experience. I did have that. I literally had it. I had it for like half an hour, and then I got pissed off. And then the athlete rose up in me, like, F this. And I was with my pops, and we just started like, where do we go? How do we get it? How quickly can we get it? because for me it was a path back to health and back to playing. It was that simple.
But I mean, where do you get it? I mean, it's not a bag of Walker's crisps. It's a heart that you're looking for. Do you know what I mean? So where'd you go from, okay, I need a heart. How does, especially in that day, I'm sure it's not as advanced as now. Correct.
So they were only doing them in one place in Canada, on the East Coast, in a place called London, Ontario. So we left and we went there. You know, within 10 days we were in London, Ontario, and they have to do all the tests again. So they do another biopsy.
So you're just like,
yeah.
I just unzip the hole, and you're like, there it is. Trust me, I know what you're doing.
So they did all the tests, and the last test is the treadmill test, right? They want it. They hook you up, and they
your VO2 max when they test you.
Yeah, they do the treadmill test, and so I was used to the treadmill test. We've been training for Mexico City, so I did the treadmill test every single Friday with the national team for the past year and a half. I knew how to do the treadmill test, even as sick as I was, and so I figure I'm going to go to this hospital. I get on the treadmill. I'm going to crush it. I'm going to show them how good of a candidate for a heart transplant I could be. So, most people do 12 minutes. Some do 15. Really fit guys do 21. I was on that mother for 35 minutes. And I...
At a good speed.
and a good clip, right?
Yeah.
And elevation keeps going and the speed goes faster. So I crush this thing, and I'm sitting on the bench, dripping, sweating bullets. And the doctor comes in with the clipboard, and he looks me dead in the eye and he says, "You're absolutely crazy. There's no way you need a heart transplant. I've never seen anybody do what you just did on the treadmill. I don't know anybody. There's just no way you need a heart transplant." And then he gave me the sage advice of the medical system that doesn't always work out best. And he said, "I want you to go home. I want you to get sicker and then come back."
What was this doctor's thinking at this time? Like what?
So.
And you were like, yeah, all right.
You can probably figure out already, just sitting here for a couple minutes, that's probably not what I'm going to do. So we get back home and we sit around the kitchen table, and it's me and my pops and my mom, and we're figuring out what our options are. And so we learn about this option in London, England. I'm British. I was born in England. I got a British passport. So I get socialized medicine. Cost was a factor, right? And so we get on a plane. I head to London, England, and sort of long story short, we can maybe fill in some blanks, but it was there that they accepted me into their program, and here we are.
Don't here we are, me. We're going to be doing this. We're going to be going back all the time. So you get to England, and the thing is, I'm fascinated with death. Yeah. Like, it's just a thing. I think about it all the time in a very positive way and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just aware of life and death and the gift or whatever. And you've actually had the gift of 3 lives.
Yeah.
If you count the first one that you were already given when you were born.
Yeah.
I want to know what you were thinking right at the time where they said, okay, we have a heart now. We're going to change the heart that's inside you, because that's not a joke.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? If someone told me I'm going to change like someone tells me, I want to take a tooth out, I'm like, but I need it.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
it's going to hurt too, by the way.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when someone says, I'm going to take out the thing that keeps you alive, the only thing that keeps you alive.
Yeah.
And then put another one in.
Yeah.
Me, I'd go, yeah, but in that time, in between, what if you drop it on the floor and it gets a bit of dust on it? Or what if it takes too long? Or what if the tubes are, like, I'd get into every possible thing that could go wrong.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I don't like the idea of anesthetic anyway, of being under and then coming up,
Well, you wouldn't be very good in this seat.
Yeah, I wouldn't, bro.
I mean, I've only had like 35 pretty major surgeries.
Dude, I would. Yeah, the idea of having an operation for me is just scary as shit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, I've broken my nose about 16 times, and then someone said to me, "Yeah, we'll fix your nose, no problem. We'll straighten it out." And I was like, "How?" And they were like, "We'll just put you under."
Yeah, that's the
end. And then I was like, "Yeah, man, I still get girls. It's fine. It's not a problem. I can, I look like a fighter, so it's fine. I'll leave it. I'm not going to fix it." But the idea of going under, and then, and because also there's a big possibility that you won't come back from it, that it might not work, or your body will reject it, or these things. So how, as a 19-year-old, I'm talking about instant. Okay, you're dressed, you've got the, the paint on or whatever. What are you thinking then?
At that moment?
At that moment, before you go to have the heart change.
So the lead up to this is, I'll get to that question. I'll answer that question. Lead up to this is, I meet with the surgeon. I'm 21 at the time, by the way. So I'm 21. It's May. It's May. I eventually get transplanted in July. So let's go back to May of that year. He accepts me on the program, and he gives me a pager. And he says, when this pager goes off, we've got a heart for you, right? Well, you want to make sure the battery's in that pager, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But he said something else to me. He said, all the medicine that you're currently on that's helping you sustain yourself, I want you off all that stuff. This had been, prescribed in Canada. I want you off all that stuff. Well, as soon as I get off all that stuff, I just go,
wow.
And so I find myself in King's Cross Hospital, really sick, like really sick now. And so May through June, I'm in the hospital all of June, lost a lot of weight, really sick, on life support, so really struggling. July comes, end of the World Cup, Maradona with his hand of God, and the pager goes off. I'm basically out of it. My folks are there. I'm out of it. I'm not comatose, but pretty close, on a lot of paid medicine. So we get the call, and we get up to the hospital. And so gets to your question, right? You're 21 years old. You're flat on your back. They're about to open your chest up, take your heart out, put somebody else's in. It was fucking incredible. It was incredible. And the reason it was incredible because, first of all, it was the only option to live. It was the only option for me to live at that point. And the perspective that you gain in that scenario is you can handle anything. You can handle anything. There's nothing in life that's ever going to top that for me, ever.
Dude, I can imagine. And what about your immediate friends and family and how they dealt with it? Because I remember watching something and your very close friend from when you were really young, shout out, sitting upstairs.
Yeah, Ian. Yeah.
He was told that you had passed, right?
Yeah.
He got a phone call. Like that must have, not been ideal for him either. Do you know what I mean? So all the people around you, pretty much thought that it was over. And as a parent, and I mean, I'm sure you can appreciate, no parent ever wants to bury their child before them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how did they because they have to put on a straight, the strong side and all that stuff. And especially like you said, your family being athletes and being that side, it must have been terrible for them.
I think it was terrible for them. No one really knows what to say when people are really sick. And it's such a solitary journey. When you're the person that's fighting every day, and it breaks a lot of people. It just frankly does break a lot of people because it's at the end of every day, everyone else goes home. And they're well intentioned and they love you and they support you and they, whatever their role is, that ultimately they all go home and you're there by yourself. And it's an incredible time for you to really understand what your character's about, right? Because you're there with your character. And it's in those, and people have said this before, right? In those darkest moments is when your true character rises up. So it's hard. I'm sure it was hard for everybody, but again, at the end of the day, you have to become very selfish. It's like pro sports. It's like UFC fighters. It's like boxers. It's like professional footballers. You have to be super selfish. And in that moment, you got to be selfish.
And take me through if this was a movie, that the scene would be black and then and then the eyes open around, and you start to see blurry. How did it feel when you woke up and you were like, oh shit, it worked?
Yeah.
Were you aware of it? Did anything feel different? Did it feel weird?
I was super confused because I had my surgery on July 7th. I was convinced it was still May 15th, right? So I'd lost those 6 weeks. It wasn't as painful as people think. I was still very skinny. I lost a lot of weight. One of my brothers walked through the door, and it sort of confused me. Like, what are you doing here? That was the first recognition moment that I got this thing. And then it was smooth sailing for, I don't know, 7 days.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it though, because then it got bumpy.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
happened
I had to get a pacemaker put in
then? Okay, for the new heart.
for the new heart. Yeah, I had to put a
Is it
pacemaker.
that your body rejected it, or how did it work? Or
No.
is it kind of like an insurance?
It wasn't. It was because I was fit, right? Remember, I'd been battling, and because I was fit, my resting heart rate when I came out of surgery was like 42 beats per minute, which is good as an athlete, but they didn't feel comfortable with it.
But wait, whose heart did you get? Were they also an athlete, or was it?
They were an athlete, and so the guy whose heart I got, he was 17 years old. His name was Jonathan Groves. I only learned this 25 years later, by the way,
Wow.
in 2011. I knew nothing about him for more than a quarter of a century. And we went back, and so we're going forward now a little bit, right? So fast forward to 2011. And it's been 25 years, and hearts generally last about 10 years, transplanted hearts. So
There's a date on how.
generally speaking, the data says it's about 10 years.
So when you're given this heart, they're saying, hey, we're going to give you another 10 years, but we don't know what's going to happen after that.
That's right. And they can't even guarantee that.
Wow, that's incredible. That's kind of like somebody telling you, hey, by the way, you got 10 years to live, and
That's
make
right.
the best out of it,
That's
because
right.
we can't promise you anything after that.
Right.
Wow.
So I get to 25 years, and I'm like, even for me, right? Pretty cavalier,
Yeah.
move forward, only looking this way. I'm like, holy shit, 25 years. It's a long time to not know whose heart is keeping you alive for the last 25 years. And the reason this happened was because back in the early days, in the 80s and the 90s, they didn't want donor families and recipients to meet,
Why?
because their philosophy was that it would bring up a lot of emotions for the donor family. Think of the dad of the poor guy, the poor dad who lost his son, and he has to meet me, and all he can think about is, that's my son inside you. And then you got the other side, right? Is the recipient living a worthy enough life to receive the gift? So there's all these emotions. So for a long time, they wouldn't let, it was prohibited and just discouraged. Well, I'd start seeing things on social media where other people were meeting their donor families. So I'm like, fuck that. 25 years, I'm going to go meet him. I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to end the book by meeting this family.
Wow.
So I found myself in a small town in Wales called Newport, Wales, just outside Cardiff. And I meet this guy named Roger, and Roger is the father. And Roger's he's like every British grandfather ever, right? Charming and warm and loving and dry sense of humor. And so we go to this small town, and Roger shows me his son's Jonathan's the house he grew up in and the school he went to, and took me to his grave site. And then he pulls up to this field, and it's a soccer field. And he walks me down the field, and he says, this is where it happened.
Mate, that's fucking crazy.
Crazy.
That's crazy.
So
It was a footballer who you got his heart.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So him and his mates were out playing on Sunday afternoon on July 7th, and he collapsed. He had a brain aneurysm. He essentially died instantly, right? Brain dead.
Yeah.
One of his other mates kept the heart beating on CPR, and I got it.
Wait, I heard about this. What was the name of the road? That
Vancouver Drive.
dude.
And I'm from Vancouver, right?
So you were given the heart of a footballer who pretty much was kind of the same age as you when you started to have your problems with your heart, and the road of the pitch that it was on was the name of the country, the city that you lived in Canada.
That's right. That's right.
Are you a religious man? Do you
Craziness.
believe in a plan? Do you believe in fate?
I have the word fate tattooed on my back.
I assume that you would, dude. That is nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Everything fit into place. And wow,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
yeah. So that again, that's 2011. Go back to when I first got it, right? So now, like, what am I going to do, right? Broken athlete, used to be a World Cup soccer player. Who cares now, right? What's that kid going to do? And so that's why I say it was bumpy. It was smooth sailing until day 7, because day 7, I'm like, okay, time for me to get back into shape. I'm going to play again. And no, you can imagine, you talked about people around me, right? I had no, like, outward support. My friends didn't really support me. My teammates never supported me. The media, the lawyers, my parents. I mean, nobody was like, go, Simon, go, right? And so the guy who transplanted the heart, he said to me, he said, Simon, the goal for you is to resume the life you led before you were sick. So that's it. Now I've got it in my corner. So now I can play. So that's when it got bumpy. I started arguing with physiotherapists, and they're telling me to step up 2 stairs and sit down. And I'm like, fuck that. I want to get on the treadmill. Get out of here. I'm not 62 years old and have heart disease for 30 years. I'm a kid who's an athlete.
Yeah.
So anyways.
So at that time, are you taking like medication to kind of balance out? Because I know when you do have transplants and that, there's certain medications that you need to stay on to, I don't know exactly what it does, but it keeps the new heart regulated to your body or something similar of this.
Yeah.
Right?
What happens is, like, when you get sick, there's a part of your immune system that produces antibodies to fight the illness. That doesn't matter what kind of illness it is. The immune system is king inside your body. And so when you put a foreign object in there, right, and you put this heart that doesn't belong there, the natural response for the immune system is to go and eat it away. It's called rejection. It's their job to attack it. So funny enough, in 1983, there was this miraculous discovery of a certain medicine that you can take that can suppress the immune system so it won't eat away won't reject the organ, but also won't deplete your immune system so much that you die of the flu or whatever else. So yeah, we got to take that for the rest of our life.
Okay, so from there you go back and want to start playing.
Yeah.
Do you continue to play after that?
Oh yeah. So I go back to Canada. They all think I'm a freak. I'm the heart boy. You know, it was, you know, you're a footballer. Now you got a transplant. It's sort of a big story, and you know, little old ladies are handing me $5 bills and saying God bless. You know, it's just crazy.
But I mean, you can understand, even as a coach, no coach wants to take that kid back and have him die on his training session. Do you know what I mean? Because even if their intention is in the right place, you will always initially think, if I push this kid too hard, his heart's going to explode, or the stitches aren't tight enough, it might fall out on the pitch, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like you're very kind of like, no one wants to be that guy who's going to do it. So where did you go from there?
Never been done before.
Yeah.
Ever.
And that's another thing.
Never even thought about it.
Yeah. It's not been done.
Never. Like, so everyone's in new territory, right? So anyway, so I applied to get my amateur status back. I got my amateur status back, and I was allowed to play college soccer, which is quite decent in the United States. And I joined my brother in Las Vegas. He was going to the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and he was playing on the soccer team. So I went down there. I met the coach, and explained a little bit about my situation. Had a little tryout, and after the tryout, he said, "Well, clearly you're a very good player, but your brother says that you had some sort of heart issue." So I explained it to him, and he said, "Okay."
Just a little one.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, I'll let you play here, as long as you promise me one thing. I said, "What is it?" He says, "Don't die on the field." I said, "Okay, no problem."
You're like, "Oh, yeah, I can definitely guarantee that."
Right. Yeah. So they let me play. You get signed everything, and you know the attorneys get involved and all that stuff. But he allowed me to play. It was good.
And then you carried on from there. Like, where did you go? Here's another question, actually, I want to ask. I truly believe that parts of the body are connected to the person who holds them. Did you ever feel through your transplants or anything like that, that they, like, I don't know. I guess the question I'm asking, did you ever fancy doing a salsa when you didn't used to like doing it before, or
Yeah.
all of a sudden the music came on, you're like, I know this. Dun, 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 dun. Like, was there anything like that you thought, this is different? Like, do you feel like I mean, again, humans are so resilient, and the human body is so resilient that you can literally just put something else in there and your body will just be like, oh yeah, this is mine, it's cool. But did you have any kind of feeling like that where you were like, hold on, why do I really like blondes now? Why does my heart
listen?
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, listen, AJ. The fun, sexy answer is yes. The reality is no.
Okay.
You know, and part of it was because I was young and I was naive. I was cavalier. I was only looking forward, and I pushed out of my mind anything negative. Anything. Do I feel different? Do I feel sick? Is it harder? Is it soft? I pushed all that out of my mind. Right, it just, the mind's a powerful thing. We'll talk about powerful thing. The mind is a great partner in this kind of journey. Yeah.
Okay, so where did you go from there, from the football?
So I graduated out of college, and in the United States they have a draft. Unlike Europe and around the world, they have a draft. The NBA has a draft, of course, and so all American, the best players in college, there was 32 of us, go to this one place and we practice for a week, and at the end of the week they have the professional draft to go back and play in the professional leagues. And so I participate in this, and you know, from where I was in terms of the level of my play, this was a step down for me. So from a skill standpoint, I was probably better than all of them. From a fitness standpoint, I was probably below them now, because it was more difficult to play with a transplanted heart. So it sort of evened out. So anyways, I got drafted by a team in Cleveland. They drafted me number one in the entire country, so I was the best college soccer player in the United States. And that's why I'm sitting on the couch here, because that's where it happened, right? That's where I became the first guy to play pro after a transplanted heart, and blah, 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 blah.
And then from there you went to to start your own foundation, right?
I did. After I retired playing soccer, I moved back to Las Vegas and became an entrepreneur and built a bunch of companies. And along the way, me and my wife formed a foundation, the Simon Keith Foundation. And we've raised a lot of money, and we've helped a lot of people, and we're targeted with little kids who've had organ transplants in their desire to be healthy and active again. So it's cool. It's cool stuff.
I heard that you took over something that was like one of the worst in America. What was that? And then turned it into one of the best in the world, right?
Yeah, we did that. So there's companies in America that are responsible for recovering organs from deceased donors.
Yeah.
So just like on TV, you know, they got to recover the heart and put it in a cooler,
the ice cooler and drive it,
run down and get on the airplane or the private jet and fly to the transplant center. So there's these companies. There's 58 of them in the United States, and the one that I joined, when I got back from England from meeting, you know, that crazy meeting where I met Roger on Vancouver Street. I had just sold the company, and I was sort of retired, and I called this other OPO. It's called an OPO. It's Organ Procurement Organization. And I called them and said, "This is who I am," and they invited me on the board, and so I found out really quickly they were really shitty, and they were 54th out of 58. And so I just sort of rolled my sleeves up, got involved. We rebuilt the whole thing, and we became the most productive of those organizations, not only in the United States, but around the world. And so I did that, and then we did it again in another one in Ohio, and now we're working. So, you know,
Let's keep going.
Yeah, got to work.
I guess just once something like that happens, right, you just have a new lease for life and a new perspective. Like, I need to live a life of purpose, and I need to kind of give back, right? It's not about just because I have a lot of friends who have had open heart surgeries, who have had, you know, near-death experiences, or something along the line, and the way they live is just different to people who haven't, you know, had any of these, you know, things that they faced in life. It's like you really do get a new lease of life, not only physically but mentally, right? You start to realize, hold on a minute, it's not just I'm just gonna fart away the years,
right?
Kind
well,
of thing.
there's a famous saying, right? We're all gifted with two lives. and the second life starts the day you realize
that you have the
that you only have one left. Yeah,
dude, that's crazy. So you got 3.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. What happened then?
So as I said to you, generally speaking, heart transplants last 10 years. I'm rounding on year 32 of my transplanted heart. My friend Jonathan, of course. And it just runs out of gas. It just gets really hard, and it's hard to pump and all this kind of stuff. So I get relisted for transplant, and so it seems simple. I needed a heart and a kidney this time. My kidney shut down from all the medicine and stuff. So it seems simple. So, but my challenge is I've got my original immune system. I've got Jonathan's immune system in me now, and now I got to add a third immune system inside me. And so the surgeon said it's like threading a needle from space. So they actually have they have a measurement tool, and it's called the PRA scale. And the higher you are on that scale, the worse odds you have of getting a organ that will not reject. Okay, so you want a score of 10%, 20%, 30%. I was at 98.75. So out of 100 hearts that become available, 1.25% would work for me.
And that's coming from space.
That's coming from space. So then they can do this thing that's called plasmapheresis, where they essentially take your blood out of your system, they treat it, they bring it back in, and it's brutal under your system. And so most times they do this 4 times for most people. They got really aggressive with me, and they said, we need to do it 16 times. You need 4 rounds of this. 4 rounds of 4. 4, 4, 4, 4. I got to round 15, and my weight had gone in 1 week from 168 pounds to 145 pounds in 1 week. Okay? And so I was, again, same place as I was in 1986, dead, lost a ton of weight, hanging on. And so the big day comes where the doctor says, let's go measure your PRA, which was 98.75. And we need it to be, 40 or 50%, like low. And he says, walks in, he's got his clipboard, he says, it's still 98.75. So I'm fucked again. Anyways, I hang on. And when you're in those moments, for me, it's like, you just got to hang on another day. Now you got to just hang on another hour. You just got to hang on, hang on. Miraculously, I got the call and got another heart and a kidney to boot.
From the same person?
From the same person.
Do you know that story of that person as well?
I do. I've talked to his widow. He was my age at the time, 54 at the same time. I was 54 as well.
So this is recent.
2019.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
And with this, have they also said again, okay, this will last another 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to get 32 out of this one too. So
You're just like, yeah, I'm going to get it.
I'll be 89 sitting in this couch.
You'll be like, I'm on my 6th one now.
I'll be like a Reebok guy.
Yeah, right?
Come on.
But is this something that kind of sticks on your mind when you're like, okay, 10 years? You don't think about it at all. It's just like
not for 1 second.
Yeah.
No. I say yes a lot though. Hey, you want to go to Abu Dhabi?
Yep.
Yeah. You want to go here? Yep. I say yes a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy thing. I think most people don't realize how fleeting or how fickle life can be. Like, as humans, the human body is the most incredible thing that's ever existed. But at the same time, it's the most feeble and sensitive thing. Like, it's a very weird balance between, like, it can, out of nowhere, that's it. It's done.
In all of our lives, very few people do it. The number one thing on the list has to be health. Because if that goes south, nothing else on the list counts.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing
really
else
matters,
matters.
right? You can't do anything if you're not healthy.
Nothing.
Because I was speaking to a friend of mine, Shad's, the one I told you about, who had the open heart surgery. He's saying in Australia, it's something like only 1 heart transplant can happen a year. There's like a number, and if you miss that, you miss that. It's done.
Well, I don't know about that exactly, but I'm an expert now in organ donation and transplant systems around the world. I'm definitely an expert, and it's a classic demand and supply problem. There's way too much demand and not enough supply. period, like by millions. So you have these people on dialysis. They all should be getting kidney transplants, and there's just no kidneys.
Is there a? I mean, I don't want to bring it down.
Yeah.
But is there a? Obviously, money talks, right? Is there a big problem in rich people, rich families, getting organs they maybe shouldn't be getting because, they have the means to bribe the organ their way, or these kind of things?
Well, I think that still happens in certain areas of the world. In general, no. But, maybe in lesser developed countries that's happening where you can buy organs, right? There's only a handful of countries that the World Health Organization has identified that that's still happening. There's an ongoing debate about should you be able to pay for organs or not. That continues to be discussed. I think it's a very, very complicated issue. Socioeconomics is a massive factor in anything, not just in organs, but in better lifestyle, better health, better cars, better education. That's a major factor. So yeah, it happens in organ donation that the wealthy and the educated are more advantaged than the poor and the uneducated.
Yeah,
anyways,
it's not the fairest world at some points, right? I watched something that listed all of the things that you've done physically when it comes to operations and things you've had put in and taken out and all that stuff. Talk me through a couple of the things that you've had to go through. Let's go through that list.
Well, I've had 15 pacemakers. So I've had
15.
Yeah.
Put in and take out.
Yeah. So I've had pacemakers that have lasted 7 years, 7 days, and 7 hours. I've had single chamber pacemakers. I've had dual chamber pacemakers. I've had pacemakers in the chest here, pacemakers in the chest here, pacemakers in my abdomen. The very first pacemaker I had was the size of a car battery that I had to carry around with me for a while.
Wow.
I've had what's called cardioversion. That's where your heart gets out of rhythm and they have to take the paddles and they stick the paddles on you and they jolt you back into rhythm. So they basically stop and start your heart.
Yeah.
So they stick you on the operating board and they give you a little fun juice so you can calm down. And they pull the paddles out and they stick them on your chest and
just reset the rhythm of it.
And you're so I've had that 3 times. I've had, like I said, 150, 200, biopsies. I've had kidney surgery. I've had kidney replaced, of course. I've had 2 transplants. I've had, I don't know. It just goes on and on and on.
You're the bloody Terminator, mate. I tell you what, mate. Like someone has a plan for you out there. I tell you that. Yeah. And you're making the doctors a lot of money. So they're like, let's keep this guy alive because we're just making money off this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about the movie.
Yeah, okay.
Something very interested.
Yeah.
So they're making a movie about you.
They are. So we got ET on this. Got ET on the set here.
Yeah,
so the guy who made ET, there was 2 guys who made ET. Frank Marshall and Steven Spielberg. Mm-hmm. They were partners for 30 years, and everyone knows Steven Spielberg. And his partner for 30 years was Frank Marshall. Frank Marshall is the guy for my movie. He's producing my movie. His credits, all the Bourne series, all the Back to the Future, all the Raiders of the Lost Ark, all the Jurassic movies. This guy is, he's the billion-dollar producer. So Frank, we became not really, we're friends, but we became known to each other because Frank played soccer at UCLA 100 years ago. He's the nicest man on the planet. And so Frank partnered with 2 guys, one NBA star by the name of Blake Griffin, superstar, and a football player who just retired named Ryan Khalil. And Ryan was played for the Carolina Panthers, all-pro football player. So they're partners. And then the guy who wrote the movie is a guy named Todd Carmanicki. Todd did the movie Elf with Will Ferrell, and he did Sully with Tom Hanks. Mm-hmm. So we're like in the A category, and I just sit in the corner and just This is fun.
17
It's
pacemakers. Just make sure you get the numbers right. That's
it's
what
like
you're doing,
it's like you talking about cameras here.
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, they've written the script, and it's Hollywood, right? It sort of meanders around a little bit, and then things go really fast, and then it meanders, and they've done some casting, and they've picked who's going to play young Simon and older Simon, and my wife's name's Kelly, so young Kelly and old Kelly. And
How young are they looking for?
yeah, exactly, exactly.
So yeah,
I think one of the descriptors was charming. So
yeah, exactly. So I think that will work for me. So how close are they to? Because with movies, it's like there's so many things that have to be in the right place for it to do it. Is it going to be made now? Like, is it something, or is it a case of they still have to get the money for it, or?
It's going to be made. They're still in funding. Todd, who's the screenwriter, he wrote the script, and he's the director of the movie, is working on another project in another major motion picture in Belgium and Ireland right now. He's not available till the spring of 2023, so that's the earliest it would start shooting.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what brought you to Abu Dhabi and this region?
I've been here. This is probably year 5 in a row. I come here every year. I come here to support the Haya organ donation program that's been kicked off. Sheikh Abdullah Al Hamed became organ donor number 1 last week in the UAE. So there's a national registry now that everyone that lives in UAE can sign in to pledge that they're going to be an organ donor in the case of their untimely death. And so I come and support, and Dr. Ali Al-Baldi does all this work, and I support him, and we visit Cleveland Clinic, and we visit recipients and Mayo Clinic and different doctors, and it's takes a village, man.
Yeah, I didn't even, because I was surprised. I didn't think that there was such thing as organ donation in this country.
There hasn't been until
2016
when the law was changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is something that's happening now in the Emirates.
Yeah, relatively new, but it's definitely happening. I think they did 147 transplants this year.
Really?
Yeah.
And do you visit any of the people? Like, have you done any talks and these kind of things where you kind of like?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure for you, it's fine. You've done 25 different hearts, so you're calm. Do you know what I mean? You're like, look, it's all right, it's fine. But to a person who, this is their first time, it must be. I mean, as close to,
Yeah, they're freaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I've met tens of thousands of organ recipients and tens of thousands of donor families, and there's one thread that ties them all together, and it's called hope. And it's true. I don't mean to be, sort of over dramatic, but it is, because the recipients, although they're, like you say, they're scared to death and they don't know what's around the corner, but they're hopeful. And then these donor families who have had this incredibly terrible tragedy that's happened to them, once they get through that first traumatic grieving part, they'll grieve forever. But that first part, they just take they get great benefit from knowing that they've helped another human being. Yeah, so it's tied together by hope. So yeah, I'm the sort of the poster boy, poster child.
I mean, yeah, you'd have to be. I mean, yeah, it's incredible, dude. And just, I think it's kind of strange as well, because I think a lot of people are scared of death. But what you tend to find when people are on that edge where they know, okay, it might be a day or two, they tend to be a bit calmer about it. Then, I mean, some people find peace at that moment.
That's right.
And that's very strange to think, because to tell anyone, you're going to die, and they'll be like, no, I'm not. Do you know what I mean? And it's the most scariest thing to them. But, a lot of people, and I've had a few people who have been on their deathbed, and it's very strange how everything changes in those last hours, days, minutes, where they're kind of like, it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's just very hard to understand.
AJ, it's hard for me to understand, because I never had that peace.
Yeah.
I'm like, F this, man. I'm living another hour. I mean, I'm fighting. I still fight to the bitter end. So I never experienced that. I've never experienced that peace of succumbing to disease. I just haven't done it ever.
But I think for you, it's because you had the Joker card, right? It was something that could be fixed, or you could.
Correct.
Do you know what I mean? So if it was something like cancer or something where it's like we're not changing anything, there is nothing you can do, I think that's where you might have that kind of thing. But you are just like, let's see what happens when I wake up.
Yeah.
I mean?
I can't speak to that. I haven't had a terminal disease, of course, but like you say, there's
that outside
there's that
card.
outside there's that 1% of 1% chance I can still do it.
And Vegas is the best place for you to live. It's like a gambling city, right? You're just like, hey, I've been gambling with life my whole life, dude, so this is like the best city to have it in. Is there anything that you, and I'd like you to look into that camera when you say it. Is there any advice you could give to parents or to people who are going through what you've been through, in those moments that you think could help them?
Yeah, there is. I mean, for me, anyone listen, everybody's fighting a battle. Everybody's fighting some sort of battle, right? Whether it be your health or your finances or your relationship or your work or your whatever it is, right? We're all fighting a battle. The reality is that you just got to fight. You just got to fight. You just got to fight.
Don't take no for an answer.
Just gotta fight, man. Just gotta fight.
Yeah, it's crazy, dude. Is there anything that we missed out or anything like that? Time flies when you're having fun. So
no. Thanks for having me, man. This has been great. This is incredible. What you're doing here is incredible.
No. I appreciate you, dude.
Awesome.
And being able to tell stories like yours, it's a real privilege for me to be able to. I mean, I think that's what I get most out of doing this, is the connections I have with people, with incredible people that you get to meet. I now can say to another friend when they get a mosquito bite and they're complaining how much it itches them, that my mate Simon has died 9 times, dude. What are you moaning about? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's incredible. Like, just the different people, and just to show the resilience of the human being, of all the different things you could go through. I mean, I had a friend of mine, he's called Bionic Body, Edgar Augustin.
Yeah.
At 4 years old, he was in a car accident and instantly severed both of his legs off, from the knee down, and his brother lost one leg. You know what, I'm actually gonna show you a picture of this dude now, and you're gonna be like, you're gonna understand totally. 1 minute. So this is him now.
Holy shit.
So I'll get that picture up there. He's a Terminator. Like, and it just shows that, you can, in life, you can always go 2 ways. You can either have something like this, let it depress you, let it just ruin your life, or you can do what you guys have done and be like, nah, I'm going to be a 7'3" bodybuilding champion with bionic legs with blades on them and run down the street.
Incredible.
Or I'm just going to be like, do you know what I mean? And I think one thing about tragedy is it can really show a person, A, who they are, and B, who they can be. Because mindset is so important, right?
It's a choice.
Yeah.
It is as simple as a choice.
Mm-hmm.
If you are sure that you're disadvantaged and sick and ill, you will be. If you believe that you're going to get better and that you're stronger, and you will be. Right? It's just feed the wolf, right?
Yeah, totally.
Feed the wolf, man. Feed the good wolf or the bad wolf.
Yeah.
I believe that. It's
I
a
believe
choice.
in that too. And I
It's
believe in manifestation, and I believe in, like, I still think that we're that connected. Like, I think that we only know 10% of the capability of the mind and the body. And I really do believe that the cells in our body and stuff, we are kind of more in control of our body than we think we are.
Amen,
like,
man.
I think some people heal themselves from very big diseases because they refuse to accept and literally zone out to the universe and take every pixie dust they need and stop themselves from doing it. And I think that situation happened with you in the sense where you chose not to believe that the heart would last 10 years. So it didn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because maybe if you didn't have that strong of a mindset and you weren't that strong of a character and you didn't have that kind of resilience, maybe it would have lasted 6 years if you were just like, oh, poor me.
Right.
But where you were just like, mate, I'm going to make this last 150 years. Not only am I going to be the first heart transplant person who's athlete, I'm also going to be the oldest person on earth ever. Do you know what I mean? And it's like you forced your body to kind of deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had science as help with medication and stuff like that, but I really believe that mindset can just change people. And I don't think we get taught that enough in schools. And I mean, there's a lot of things that we don't get taught in schools that we should. But I don't think that kind of internal capability, I think we kind of need to do more of that.
Can't be lazy. Got to be disciplined. I mean, it's not hard. This whole thing is not hard, right? Eat right, get some rest, don't be stupid. I mean, it's not that hard. But we make choices as humans every day that are we know that they're bad for our body. The food we put inside our mouth, we know is bad for our body. It's our own fault. I don't know what we're looking to anywhere else, right? We know we need to go out and exercise and run and lift, and we know it's easy, right? The choices are so easy. Just have to make them. It's right there.
And we're all guilty of sometimes making those things as well. You know, so many people smoke, and literally the box says this is going to kill you, and they're like, yeah, cool. And you know, you smoke. So, but I think if the majority of your choices are good, then you'll be all right.
What did Kobe Bryant say, right? Kobe says, I have nothing in common with lazy people. I don't understand them. I don't either. I don't understand them. I don't understand lazy people. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
How do you not fucking try your best every day, all the time? Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's crazy.
What are you waiting for?
It's crazy. I think some people, again, like we said, they have to have some kind of major thing. And it's like, sometimes I have to explain to some of my friends when I'm going through, I'm like, listen, I know you think it's tough right now, but just know you share it with the rest of the world. Like, everybody gets depressed. Everybody has hard times. No matter what you're going through, even if you're born with a silver spoon and have all the money that you want in the world, your mom's going to die. Your dad's going to die. Your younger brother might die. There's always going to be bad news. It's going to come.
Yep.
It's going to come. And every single other human being is going to face the same stuff. So it's like, learn to kind of like balance it out and know that, yes, this is a hard time, but you know, in the bigger scheme of things, I'm all right, because there are a lot of people in the world that are doing much shittier than you. Like much shittier than you. And probably the percentage is probably higher of the people doing shittier than you.
By a lot.
By a lot. Like, I think it's like more like 20, you know,
99% are doing worse.
Yeah. So I think appreciation is things, and people being grateful is something that people don't really realize, and it's harder to kind of make people realize that in this day and age with now internet, you know, Instagram. It's hard to be like, hey, woosah, like, you know what I mean, go to the mountain and sit down and say, wow, what a beautiful view. Do you know what I mean? So, but what can we do? All we can do is watch podcasts like this and see inspirational people and let you know how life is. Dude, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here with me.
My pleasure, thanks.
And an absolute pleasure to make a new friend. And I'm sure we'll get you back on after the red carpet of the movie. And if you do need a younger soccer player in there that you want to, you know, I could be the goalie. It doesn't matter. You could get me in there one way.
You actually could play me, I think.
There you go. You know, I just get my nose fixed. Oh, no, I got to go under for that. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm out, dude. I'm out. But it's been an absolute pleasure. And you're welcome back anytime, dude. And thank you so much for sharing your beautiful story with us. And I hope you get to share it a million times more with everyone else.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you do, too.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Guys, I've been AJ. He's been Simon. Boom.
Jibber.